Right, then let's start tonight in Nigeria. Foreign exchange woes there have led to an acute shortage of jet fuel as importers continue to struggle to find the currency needed to pay to import Jet A1 into the country. Despite once being Africa's biggest oil producer, Nigeria ironically doesn't refine any jet fuel with its own facilities. The country's Aviation Minister, Hadi Sirika, now says this in turn has led local carriers to struggle to make money, to pay their staff, to pay their suppliers. Nigeria's largest airline, Arik, for example, has been hit by union strikes earlier this week amid a dispute over salary arrears and contracts as well. In a bid to resolve all of these problems, the state oil company, NNPC, now says that it will be releasing 26 days worth of supply of aviation fuel. The central bank also launched an effort to provide dollars to airlines and fuel marketers in a special foreign exchange auction. The government said it will close down the airport in the capital Abuja for 6 weeks from February.
Whilst this recession will last, and while this problem of forex availability will last, we'll have to appeal to Nigerians and other people that pass through our airports to exercise patience and bear with the situation. It could have been worse, but efforts are being made. Our government is making a lot of efforts to ensure that the situation has not worsened than it is at the moment.
Right, then let's get the latest details on what exactly is going on in Nigeria. Deji Badmus joins me now live from Lagos with more data on the story. Deji, why is it that staff at Arik Air have not been paid for the last 7 months? I mean, just based on that timing, these issues even predate the floating of the Naira in late June.
Well, that's a good question, Rama. It's difficult to tell why Arik has not been able to pay, its workers. As a matter of fact, why it was not able to pay for up to 7 months. And that's what the unions are saying, that Arik is owing its workers for up to 7 months. Of course, Arik in the past had said the operating environment was difficult and all of that. But people find it difficult to understand because all this while Arik has been flying. Despite the challenges with aviation fuel, Arik still flies, even though it has scaled down its operation. But fact is that some people have also maintained that it has always been, this airline, Arik Airline, has always had problems, not just with its workers, but also with aviation authorities in this country. It's not just its workers that Arik is owing. Arik is also owing for taxes and what have you. And for some of the unions, they said Arik is owing their body. I'm talking about, for instance, the Federal Aviation Authority. And the Federal Aviation Authority has come out to say, look, if Arik is not able to pay its debt, it would find it difficult to pay its workers. So all of that combined, but Arik's problem started not today, it started a long time ago. And the unions this time are insisting that they must be paid. Fortunately, they've reached an agreement, of course, and Arik has committed to paying them now by December the 31st. So Arik is now back in operation.
Indeed, but walk us through how that will work, because to recap, this is a company that hasn't paid these people for the last 7 months. We've got current dollar scarcity problems that are plaguing most businesses, not just aviation, in the entire country. So how exactly is Arik going to pay these people by the end of the month?
Well, it remains to be seen. It's quite surprising. But, Arik accepted, as a matter of fact, it was the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority that actually intervened. And Arik now said it will pay the monies by the 31st of December. Well, to the union members, they believe Arik has the money, but that maybe it doesn't want to pay. Anyway, Arik has said by the 31st of December, it will pay the outstanding 7 months, and also recalls 5 union members who were actually disengaged by Arik, because part of the grievances, of course, of the union is that 5 of their members were disengaged by Arik, of course, for union activities. We understand Arik has now accepted to recall those union members back and then pay the 7-month salary arrears. Now, how Arik does that, well, remains to be seen. But in the past, I must add very quickly now that we've seen such an agreement now fail to materialize. I mean, where Arik had an agreement with the unions, and when it came to the day of implementation, it just did not happen. So we'll wait and see if this would be different.
Indeed. Let's talk about the wider crisis in aviation, though. There's the dollar issue, there's a jet fuel issue. What's the government's stance on all this? Because this crisis just seems to get worse month after month, but we're not seeing any concrete structural changes to resolve those underlying problems of access to both fuel and US dollars.
Well, let's talk about the aviation crisis, for instance. As you know, the government, of course, you had the Minister of State for Aviation there. The government says it is doing everything to address the problem of aviation fuel. Of course, that segment of the market has been deregulated, if you like. But part of the problem is that well, these marketers have often complained that they've not been able to access the needed foreign exchange to import aviation fuel. It's the same problem you have with even petrol in this country. The only reason why we are not seeing this problem with petrol is just because, you know, the government just doesn't want that to happen. And so the government is doing everything to provide marketers now with the needed forex now to import petrol. But for aviation fuel, these marketers have been complaining for months on end that it is difficult for them to access forex to buy aviation fuel. Of course, as you're aware, we've had situations where some foreign airlines have had to travel to countries like Ghana to refuel. And, you know, some of them have just, as a result of the difficulty in the aviation sector now, just closed shop in Nigeria. I mean, for the foreign airlines, for instance, we know that some of them are finding it difficult to repatriate their funds, of course, as a result of the dollar scarcity. That's a problem. But the government says it is doing all it can. And, you know, for instance, the government, the CBN, as a matter of fact, says it will be conducting an auction of dollars now on Friday. So it will be selling dollars to the aviation sector, the manufacturing sector, and all of that. So the hope is that part of these measures will help to, you know, ease the problem, especially in the aviation sector, Rama.
Indeed. We'll leave it there for the time being. Thank you for the update. That's Teji Badmus live, of course, in Lagos.